The XG5000 software has a very powerful monitor mode, which allows the user to monitor and control variables, troubleshoot code, and interact with their project in many ways. We cover adding variables to the monitor window in a separate video, and we can view the variables here. Let's interact with the variables in the logic and monitor window and explore the conditional pause function of the software. We have two ways of editing variables while in monitoring mode. We can edit the variable from the monitor window, or we can edit it directly from the logic. If we want to edit it from the logic, we can double-click on the variable in the logic. This works for any of the XGB IEC programming languages. It will bring up the Change Current Value screen, which allows us to alter the current value. A Boolean variable will have a true-false option, while other variables may have slightly different data entry options depending on the variable type. If we want to view variables from multiple programs or non-sequential logic, then the easiest and often only way to do this is using the monitor window. We can edit the value of the variable using the value column. If we double-click here, it will open the same Change Current Value screen that we saw when we monitored the variables from the logic. We can set test4 to true, and we see the monitor window change to reflect the new value. Let's do the same thing for test1 and test2. Test1 and test2 won't show the value change when we edit them. If we look at the device/variable column, we see that test1 is tied to an input direct variable. And if we look at the logic in our program, we see that test2 is the output of a rung of logic. The PLC is controlling test1 based on the input status, and it's controlling test2 based on the logic state of the rung controlling it. In these situations, forcing the variables will allow us to still control the value of the variable. Forcing variables is covered in another help topic. Please refer to it for more detail on how to force PLC-controlled variables. Often, when logic is executing, several variables might trigger the same action or activity on the part of the PLC. This can make confirmation of which variable actually triggered the action difficult to trace. To address this, the XG5000 software has the ability to pause the software monitoring based on a preset condition or conditions. When the monitoring pauses, all variable values will be frozen in the software, but the CPU will continue functioning normally. To set conditions for pausing the monitoring, we go to the Monitor menu and select Pausing Conditions. This opens the Pausing Conditions pop-up window. In this window, we can set up various conditions that will pause the monitoring. These conditions will be compared between a selected variable and a preset value. There are several logic operators that may be used for the compare, and you can set multiple conditions with one or multiple variables. For our example, let's set up a condition that will pause monitoring if test4 is ever equal to 1. We can check the box to enable this condition, and if we now change the value of test4 to a 1, we see it pauses the monitoring and gives us a pop-up window to indicate this. All values in the software for both the monitor window and the logic window are frozen where they were when the pause occurred. To resume, we can go to Monitor, Resume.